The ancient oak was our entire world, its gnarled branches a familiar map against the sky. We had shared this sanctuary for seasons untold, our lives woven into the very bark and leaf. He was my constant, my melody in the quiet forest. His love was a relentless, gentle force. He'd bring me the plumpest berries, sing songs that seemed to quiet the wind itself, and his presence was a warmth that chased away any chill. But lately, a cold seed of doubt had taken root deep within my heart, whispering terrible lies. He was perfection, and that was the problem. His kindness felt too meticulous, his patience too infinite. A terrifying thought began to gnaw at me. Was this devotion a performance? A guilt-ridden compensation for a heart that wandered when I wasn't looking? The fear was irrational, a phantom pain, but it grew claws and teeth inside my mind, coloring every sweet gesture with a shadow of suspicion. I wasn't cruel. I was terrified of being fooled, of being the last to know my own heart was breaking. Our once peaceful days began to fracture. Small, sharp words became our new language. "Your song sounds different today," I'd accuse, my voice tight. "Is it for me?" He would look at me, his bright eyes clouded with a confusion that felt like a knife twist. "Why would I be here every moment if not for you?" he'd reply, his voice weary. The silence between us afterward was heavier than any storm, filled with everything we were too afraid to say, the unspoken fears hanging like rotten fruit. The cold of winter seeped into everything, into the air and into our spirits. One afternoon, as a brittle wind shook our tree, the doubt within me finally erupted, violent and desperate. "I need to know the truth," I declared, my voice stern to mask the tremor in my soul. "A test. Tomorrow, before the sun even touches the sky, we meet here beneath our branches. Whoever arrives first, their love is greater." It was a foolish, childish game, and I hated myself for it instantly. He didn't argue. He didn't get angry. He simply looked at me, and in his gaze I saw a profound sadness that made my breath catch. After a long pause, a soft, resigned smile touched his beak. "All right," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the wind. "If that is what it takes for you to believe me, I agree." His acceptance felt like a condemnation. I turned quickly, my wings carrying me away from the ache in his eyes, back to the hollow I called a nest. I settled into the familiar crevice, but sleep was a distant country. The wind howled a mournful symphony outside, each gust making the old wood groan. I watched the stars, cold and indifferent pinpricks in the black velvet sky. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs. "I will go early," I vowed to the darkness. "I will be there waiting. He will see me first and understand the depth of my love, and this terrible chasm between us will finally close." The plan felt like a lifeline. But as the night wore on, a new, chilling fear gripped me. What if he was thinking the same thing? What if he, too, was staring at these same stars, planning to prove his love by being the first to arrive? The thought should have comforted me, but it didn't. It felt like a competition neither of us could win, a race toward a finish line we had foolishly drawn in the sand of our own insecurities. The air grew colder, biting through my feathers. I pictured him in his own nest, restless like me. I imagined his steady breathing, the soft rustle of his feathers as he turned. Did he also feel this crushing weight of anticipation? Or was he peacefully asleep, secure in a love I was too broken to trust? The questions were torturous, cycling over and over in my mind until I thought I would go mad. Every rustle of a leaf, every creak of a branch was him leaving early, and I'd jerk upright, my pulse racing. Finally, the absolute blackness of the night began to soften at its edges to a deep, mournful blue. Dawn was approaching. This was it, my moment to end this pain. I pushed myself from the nest, the cold air a sharp slap against my face. My wings beat hard, carrying me through the silent, sleeping forest. The world was utterly still, frozen in a moment of breathless anticipation. My focus was singular, our tree, the meeting place, the proof I so desperately craved. The familiar silhouette of the oak appeared through the pre-dawn haze, a giant sentinel against the fading stars. My heart leaped into my throat. I'm first. The thought was a burst of frantic triumph. He would see me there, waiting, and he would know. I surged forward, my eyes straining through the dim light to find his shape, to see the look on his face. But as I landed on our usual branch, my triumph curdled into confusion. The space was empty. He wasn't there. The branch was bare, dusted with a thin layer of frost. A coldness that had nothing to do with the winter morning seeped into my bones. He wasn't here. I was alone. The silence was deafening, broken only by the frantic hammering of my own heart. I looked around, turning my head sharply, expecting him to burst from the canopy at any moment with a cheerful call. But nothing moved. The forest held its breath. He didn't come, the awful thought whispered. The test is over, and I have my answer. A sob caught in my throat, sharp and painful. Maybe I was right all along. Maybe his heart had never been fully mine. The evidence felt irrefutable, a verdict delivered by the empty space beside me. The love I had questioned for so long had now, it seemed, finally failed. A profound loneliness, more bitter than the winter cold, washed over me. "I still love you," I whispered into the stillness, my voice breaking. It was a confession to the emptiness, a final, pathetic surrender to a love that had perhaps never been as real as I'd believed. But something felt wrong. The air itself felt charged with a terrible unspoken truth. It was too still, too heavy. This wasn't the peaceful quiet of morning, it was the silence of a held breath, of a secret waiting to be discovered. My gaze, which had been fixed on the horizon, hoping for his arrival, slowly drifted downward, scanning the base of our great tree where shadows pooled thickly in the weak light. And that's when I saw it, a strange, small mound beneath a soft blanket of fresh snow. It was an unusual shape, out of place, a knot of root, a fallen bundle of twigs, but my heart knew. It recognized what my mind refused to process. A primal dread, cold and sharp, lanced through me. I dropped from the branch, my descent clumsy and graceless, driven by a terror I could not name. The world narrowed to that small, silent shape under the tree. The snow crunched softly under my feet as I landed, my breath pluming in frantic white clouds before me. And then I saw him. It was him, curled in on himself as if against a deep cold, his vibrant feathers now dull and stiff with ice. His eyes were closed, not in sleep but in a forever stillness that I recognized in the most ancient, primal part of my soul. The world stopped. Sound vanished. Time fractured. No. The word was a breath, a plea, a denial ripped from the very core of my being. No, 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 no! The screams that followed were not my own, were they? They were raw, animalistic sounds of pure agony. I rushed to him, collapsing into the snow, my wings frantically trying to wrap around him to somehow transfer my own warmth into his frozen form. "Please, please wake up," I cried, nuzzling against him, but he was so cold, a cold that seeped into my own skin and promised to freeze me solid from the inside out. My tears fell, hot and futile, onto his iced feathers, tracing tiny paths before freezing themselves. He was gone. He had been here all along. He had never left. The truth was a physical blow, suffocating and absolute. In my desperate, weeping embrace, my blurry vision caught a faint color against the pure white snow. Something small lay tucked carefully beside his still body. A single, perfectly preserved flower petal, the deep magenta of a spring sunrise, the same one he had given me months ago, a treasure he must have kept. And placed neatly beside it, like a final offering, was one of his own beautiful feathers. It wasn't a note. It was a message written in a language only our hearts could speak, a final, silent poem of his devotion. The understanding crashed over me with the force of a tidal wave, drowning me in a sea of unimaginable regret. He hadn't just come early. He had never left. He had stayed through the entire brutal night, enduring the killing cold, not to win a stupid test, but to ensure I would never, ever doubt him again. He had given everything, his very life, to answer my insecure challenge. And I had been safe in my nest, doubting him, questioning him, while he froze for me. The pain was unbearable. "You fool," I sobbed, holding his fragile body close, my tears freezing on both of us. "You beautiful, loyal fool. I never needed proof. I only ever needed you." My voice echoed in the silent clearing, a hollow sound filled with a pain that would never ever leave me. I had been so busy searching for grand gestures, for dramatic proof of love, that I had become blind to the greatest one of all, his constant, quiet, unwavering presence. I had tested him, and in doing so, I had destroyed us both. I finally understood. Love isn't a race to be won or a question to be answered. It's a quiet fortress built of trust, a choice to stand by someone even in the cold and the dark. His heart had always explained itself, not in words, but in every moment he chose to stay. and I, in my fear, had refused to listen until the silence was all that remained. I held him as the sun finally rose, painting the world in a cruel, beautiful light that he would never see, forever shattered by the proof I had demanded.